Good morning. It's Tuesday, the 14th of April, not even 8 a.m. And already with a tie on by the look of things is Dr. Roelof Botha, who's the economic advisor to the Optimum Investment Group. Roelof, good morning. Thanks for joining me so early.
Thanks. Good morning.
And now you're much better with numbers than I am. Are we about halfway through the extended lockdown now?
To the best of my knowledge, at noon today, we'll be halfway. And I think that's already something to look forward to.
Well, that's a positive note, but what is this black swan event that people are referring to?
Well, we are in the middle of one, hopefully a little bit further than the middle. And it is essentially an event which takes the world by surprise. It's totally unanticipated. It has huge negative consequences for society in general, and especially for the economy, and especially for stock markets. There have been quite a number of them through the ages. So this is arguably the most serious one that we've had in more than a century.
What actually defines a stock market crash?
That's debatable, but if a stock market loses the value of its market capitalization, as expressed usually by an index, in South Africa we have the JSE All Share Index, the LC. In the US they have the Dow Jones. If that drops by, more than 15% in a very short period of time, then you can talk about a stock market crash. And there have been, since the end of the Second World War, roughly about 10 of them.
10 stock. So obviously the impact is felt around the world. You're talking about American stock market crashes, right?
Yes, invariably, especially in the post-Second World War period, if the US stock market crashes, it's almost a given that virtually every stock market in the world will follow suit.
Now we are getting clapped, obviously, the rand. How worried should we be about the weakness? Economists talk about it being undervalued. What determines that, and how undervalued are we if we are?
Well, to calculate the undervaluation, you need to have some benchmark, and usually what economists do, they look at the real effective exchange rate of a currency, which is then a trade-weighted currency, and you take out the effect of inflation. And on that basis, we are probably undervalued by between 25 and 30%. What this means, if you look at the history of the rand in the last sort of more or less 3 decades, is that it's a really bad idea now to take money out of the country. You should bring money into the country right now because the rand always recovers. And personally, I wouldn't be too concerned. The rand has bounced back very nicely from its low of just over 19 to the dollar. And I like to believe it will continue strengthening in the weeks ahead.
I think back to the times when there was the financial rand, where there were inducements to bring money into the country. What's the possibility that the powers that be say, okay, we've got your money in the country, now you're not taking it out again? Can that happen again?
I doubt that very much, because the financial rand mechanism was part and parcel of a comprehensive system of foreign exchange control. And we don't want that to happen again. Right now, there's such a huge incentive for people to bring money into the country, investors, because not only will they get the currency gain, our bond yields are terrific. They are in double-digit territory compared to negative real bond yields in Europe. So why the hell would you want to put your money into a euro bond? Not a very good idea.
So we're making sense, but there's also, we mentioned briefly last week, there are limits on who can actually invest, which kind of asset managers can invest in South Africa, am I right?
We live in an era, Stuart, where it's almost limitless. You can take your money out of South Africa, large amounts of it, and you can bring it right back in. And that's what we don't want. We don't want to return to foreign exchange controls, because that's like a motion of no confidence in yourself.
Okay, so now let's say there's going to be a lot of money being invested in the country. What's it going to take to return our economy to some kind of sensible situation?
Well, just also to put the viewers at ease, a striking feature of the stock market crashes of late that we've had in the world in the last couple of decades is that they don't last very long. The longest one, in fact, since the Second World War, was the global financial crisis, which I think most of us remember. It started in 2007 in the States, the subprime crisis. It's also been called, that lasted 17 months. But the average duration of stock market crashes since then, or even before, since 1961, hasn't been a lot more than 4 or 5 months. The Dow Jones recovered within 6 weeks. Our own stock exchange has recovered within 2 months. We are just hoping and praying that this lasts.
Okay, so now putting on your rose-tinted hat, give us the light bits in this lockdown tunnel. Give us the things to cling on to.
Well, it's early days, but the Chinese Purchasing Managers Index has climbed back to 53. 50 is the border between growth and contraction. That is really good news. There are a number of countries that have started to gradually ease their lockdown regulations. We heard last night on national television via spokespersons of National Health that if we hit that target of less than 67 new positive cases per day, we can start thinking about an easing of lockdown regulations gradually, also, obviously without compromising the health of people out there. And that can be done with screening, with testing, with safe distances, etc. So if we can gradually open up the economy, then I'm convinced that the recovery of the JSE already, which is in the vicinity of 25%, can continue, but more importantly, that more and more people can get back to work. The important thing to realize is that the world economy has not disintegrated. We are just postponing in certain sectors economic activity. We don't know how long that will be. Sectors like aviation will take longer to recover. Other sectors will do quite well, especially courier services, especially IT communication services like the one that we're involved in right now.
And presumably those mines that use mechanized processes will be able to start producing again at a fairly high level. Does the world still want our exports?
China wants our exports desperately because we have high-grade iron ore, we have high-grade coal. They need the stuff. If I look at their PMI, my advice to government is please, let our mineral sector, let them start operating again with the necessary hygienic standards, etc. Looking at safe working distance. We have to start thinking now not of safe social distance, but of safe working distance. And that can be implemented with the cooperation with the private sector. We can do this.
As always, thanks for your positive outlook, and let's catch up again soon.
Thank you, Stuart. Keep well.